I'm not originally from Utah. I moved here about 5 years ago, and when I came here, I had to move all my stuff up 3 flights of stairs in 100-degree heat. And when I got to the end of that, I was like, oh, you know what I need? A beer. Yes, a cold solution of multigrain hops and yeast. This will revive my soul and my body. So I went out in search of a liquor store that would carry the kind of high selection that I demand. I went down State Street, and I found a liquor store by the curious name of State Liquor Store. And I thought to myself, you own a liquor store on State Street, and you've named it the State Liquor Store. How are you going to distinguish yourself in the highly competitive field of alcohol distribution with a name like that? Well, I went inside to peruse their selection and their prices, and then, oh my God, is that the price for a single bottle of beer? Who sells beer by the bottle? Are you trying to pull the hobos in here? I left in a huff. I would take my business elsewhere, because this was the great red state of Utah, where the invisible hand of free market knows no fetters. No. The perfect efficiency of free markets would solve this problem. I went in search of a competitor who would take advantage of this clear market opportunity. So I went down the street and I found a liquor store by the name of the State Liquor Store. And then it dawned on me, but very slowly, because I'm not very bright. The state had a steely grip on my friend beer, and so because of Utah liquor laws, I had to stop drinking, and that made me a better person. Of course not! Who would do that? No, this grave injustice was what I needed to get into the exciting world of homebrewing, and the lessons from homebrewing are what made me a better person. The first thing you need to know about homebrewing is that you need a plan. You've got to plan at least 2 months in advance if you're going to make some beer. You've got to boil your water, you have to steep your hops, you have to pitch your yeast, you need fermentation, secondary fermentation. It takes a long time, and before I started homebrewing, I'd never made a plan of that kind of scope before. Now, if cleanliness is next to godliness, and this is proof that God wants you all to brew beer. The way it works is you have a giant solution filled with sugar, you throw your yeast in, it turns the sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. But if you don't keep a clean work area, wild yeast can get into your beer. Wild yeast is exactly as gross as it sounds. It will make your beer taste moldy, kind of off, and so it taught me the importance of a clean workspace. The third thing that homebrewing taught me was to love my mistakes. We all make mistakes, but we got to learn to not let that just drive us to despair or regret. And I love pumpkin ale. And so one year I decided to brew myself up a batch, and it didn't really turn out very well. It turned out kind of sour. Not like a good kind of sour, like a 6-month-old apple juice kind of sour. But I drank every single bottle of that beer, because it wasn't just bad beer, this was my bad beer. And I learned to love it in its unique brokenness. So Andy Warhol said every Coke is the same and every Coke is good. And this is what we expect from store-bought beer. One beer should taste like the other. But with homebrewing, even if you brew 2 batches of the same recipe, they're going to be a little bit different, like identical twins, but slightly less creepy. But even within the same batch, a beer that you had this week is going to be different than the one you had a couple of months ago. That's because your beer, as it sits, it matures and it changes. So a beer that's merely fine at 2 months is good at 6 and becomes wonderful at 9. This brings me to my last point. Normally, I'm the kind of guy who's either looking backwards at things that have just happened or forwards to next week, next month, next year. Rarely do I just sit down and say, this moment, this is good. The first beer that I ever made was an oatmeal stout. Oh, it was delicious. It was creamy and rich and dark and just a little bit sweet. I love this beer so much. And like something I love, I tried to save it for special occasions. Well, every month it just got better and better. But at about 18 months, it stopped getting better. And then it started getting a little worse. And not pumpkin beer type of bad, but it was definitely past its prime. And I realized that by trying to hold on to this beer, I had actually let it go. I'd missed out on something that I love so much because I couldn't bring myself to stop drinking it. So homebrewing reminds me of the finiteness of everything around us. If we're always planning ahead or looking back, we can't grab the thing that's right in front of us. So because of this, I can honestly say that my addiction to alcohol has made me a better father. So that's all I got for you guys. And if you want to talk more about homebrewing, you can come talk to me, or you can go down to the Beer Nut. It's just down the street, and they'll give you everything you need to get started homebrewing. Thank you so much for your time.